start? Okay, good evening everybody. Welcome to political science classes which will be starting from today. So I think I have given my introduction in my orientation session. My name is Nikhil. I am a student of Masters in Public Policy. Currently I am doing my second year in National Law School, and my UPSC experience I have already told. I have attended 2 interviews with political science optional, and here I will be teaching you political science not from a knowledge perspective. If anybody thinks that I am going to teach you political science, make you an expert in this subject, I am not going to do it. Simple, because if you see what is my educational qualification, myself as an engineer, then I have done my masters, currently doing my masters in public policy. But then you can ask, sir, then how is it possible that you are going to teach us political science? Because one of my friend here told he's done his MA in political science. But here the thing what you have to understand once you enter the field of UPSC, I think you will know the basic thing that 7 to 8 lakh people apply for the exam, every year 5 lakhs, they attend the exam. And how many qualify for the main stage? It is hardly 10,000, 8 to 10,000 depending upon the number of posts which are there. Then how many of them get the interview call? It is around 2,000 to 2,500, again based on the number of vacancies. And finally, how many go into the final list? 7 to 800 based on whatever the posts are there. Now the thing is that, so then what is the thing here, then what is required to succeed in this exam? Okay. There is a misconception that that many people, the moment you tell your friends or your family I am preparing for UPSC, they think you need lot of knowledge, you have to be the most intelligent man on this earth to crack the exam. No doubt you need knowledge, but also you have to understand one thing is that if you draw a graph, okay, and some of you would have read economy, basics of economy, right? There is something what we tell, the more you increase the tax base is going to increase to a certain extent. Then what is going to happen if you try to increase it more? The tax rate, the graph will grow like this and it will start to drop. The same thing with here, knowledge is required but to a certain extent. Beyond that, knowledge alone does not help you to crack this exam. Similarly, coming to political science, here we are going exactly from an exam point of view. As I told, what is required for the exam, we are not bothered about, because political science is a very vast subject. I know there is a myth about political science, like few of your seniors or friends would have told the syllabus is so vast, the subject is so dynamic, can we handle political science? But that's a myth, that's what I say. If you look at the syllabus, UPSC has given a clarity what is there. If you look at thinkers, I'll explain you today what are the thinkers we are going to study. They have not included all the thinkers. Okay, if you take Western philosophy, there are many thinkers, but we'll be focusing on specific, Plato, Aristotle, about the Greek political thought. Then you have the European political thought, you have Locke, Hobbes, okay, these are the thinkers we'll go about. Then you have the Indian political thought. But again in Indian political, they have specified who are the thinkers, you have to study about it. And here again, many of them, like when I started my preparation, when I didn't have any guidance, I went to the net, usually who toppers recommend, and they would have mentioned Subrata Mukherjee is one of the book which you have to refer for Western political. No doubt, if you read that book, your knowledge is going to enhance. What I'll tell you, the funny thing is that I read Subrata Mukherjee, then I read many standard books for the first time when I wrote my mains exam. Then when I wrote my mains exam, like I was hoping, I'll get my interview call. When finally, I didn't get my interview call when I wrote my first mains. Then I waited for the score to see, how much I have scored. I was surprised to find that, I was 100 marks, beyond the cutoff. And my political science score was, 90 and 60. Paper 1, I think I got 90, and the second paper, that is the international relation and comparative politics part, I scored mere 60. Now I did self-evaluation, like what went wrong, because I had studied so much, etc. Then I thought, I have to study more, maybe this is not enough. So again I started reading the other standard books which are there. And when I wrote my second mains, the same thing repeated, the score didn't improve. I think I got some 170 or 180. Now I learned an important lesson here. That lesson was through a friend. Okay. One of my friend today, he is in Indian Administrative Service, his name is Darshan HV, he is currently serving as the CEO of Belgaum. Now he was one of my study mate, we used to study together. Now here what happened was that he had not cleared prelims I think 4 times, it was his 5th attempt he was writing. and he was disappointed, like he was telling, like maybe I'm never going to clear UPSC. For a change, he told, I need to change something. So he had his option as Kannada literature, and he told, let me try something this time. I'll give a different option, political science. And since my optional was also political science, one more friend who was also studying, who is in Indian Revenue Service today, he's also political science. He told, okay, I'll stay with you guys so that I'll have some company. And he studied with us the same notes. But that year the things changed is that when he got the result, he got 48th rank. And he studied political science, you won't believe, for 3 months, not more than 3 months. That was the time period he studied and wrote the mains exam with political science. He scored 151 alone in that year, Pol Science paper 1, and he was the paper topper that year. Okay, Tina Dabi was actually the first ranker that year, but he scored more than Tina Dabi with respect to political science paper 1. And second paper he got around 130 or 281, which was one of the second highest score after Tina Dabi. Now here I asked him, like, what is the mistake I am doing, that what is the thing you did correctly, because I have studied more than you, I know more than you, but still I am not able to score in the exam. He told the logic is simple. One, you don't have the idea of answer writing. Second one, once you get too much involved in this subject, right, you won't know that, like you know so many things that you don't know what to write there. So when you study this, don't study from a degree perspective, study it just from an exam perspective. We have not come here to become a PhD holder in political science. My only criteria here is that I have to score marks, I have to ensure what scores well. So there are two things with respect to what I teach. One, I am going to teach you with respect to the core concepts which are required for the exam point of view, and second one, I will also teach you how to apply the concepts. But even you have to understand, concepts part is very easy to teach. Okay, you can take a book, or I can sum up a book in meantime, but the most difficult part will be how do you apply it to the current affairs which is there. Got the point? Now in UPSC they are going to give you more marks only when you apply. So this is what I learned when I wrote my third mains, and when I got my interview call in my third mains, my political science score was 284. Okay, it jumped 124 marks with minimal study. I didn't study anything extra. In fact, I cut down my sources. I knew what to do. Okay, there is a certain technique which is there, you have to apply. Now many times when very newcomers will come to UPSC first year, always I give them the example of, I think modern India classes has not yet started for you, but when you read modern India, why do we read history? Okay, some people will think history is mere knowing facts, which war took place when, etc. But there is also a quote which we say, a person who does not know history cannot create history. Okay, history will teach you many lessons. That lessons need not be only from a UPSC point of view, but also these are life lessons, okay, a lesson for your preparation. Now one of the lesson which I want to give you is that you will read something called as the Santal rebellion, okay, in your modern India, you will come across it, Santals. Now why I am speaking about Santals here, why is he not teaching political science, why he is teaching about Santals? See, let us not hurry into the subject, let us have a plan that how we want to proceed, let us know what is the width, what is the depth of the subject, then we can connect with this subject. So here it is not about knowing the knowledge, but it is about how do you study a book, how do you study a concept, to what extent I need to study and what not to study. Now these Santals, they were the tribal group, and when British colonized India, this British had this policy. Their policy is very simple. That policy I want you also to adopt. Okay, what was British's policy was that minimum effort, maximum benefits. Okay, so even you have to follow the thing is that put your effort, but try to get the maximum out of it. It should be not the other way around. You put your maximum effort, study day and night, and end up, I told you my first 2 attempts, there was maximum effort but minimum returns. But the third time around I was pretty smart enough. I knew, okay, where to put the effort and where I will get the result. So what does this Britishers, they did was that, they wanted to acquire forest area. Okay, logically think, why did British wanted to get forest area? Simple, they were resources, and second one, they wanted to ensure they will cut down certain forests and convert them into agricultural lands, because again it will be a source of revenue for them. Now this brought them in conflict with the Santals, because Santals were highly dependent on the forest and they lived with the forest. So this resulted in the conflict between Sultans and British, and there were two important leaders of Santals, Sido and Kanu. Okay, Now what this Sido and Kanu they did is that, you know, they told we are 30,000 in number if you take Santals and the tribal group, and what is British? It's a mere force of 3,000 people. So there is no match for us. Okay, let us go and, you know, we'll win the war. God is with us, etc., etc. So you can see there was lack of rationality. Okay, the very first concept here, what I want to tell, when you read about the Western political thought and the Indian political thought, when you compare the both, you know, Western political thought was mostly based on rationalism, okay, logic, reasoning. Indian political thought, you can see it is more based on spiritualism, and, you know, it is more based on otherworldly than this world. Okay, it is not based on materialistic. You take Ramayana, Mahabharata. Okay. Now the point here is that what happened? They went to war. The war happened, but the outcome was different. Britishers were able to defeat the Santals to a certain extent that they were never able to rise again. Now when you read into, you know, like this is what you have to read history. You have to not read when it happened. You have to know, but you have to know why it happened. What was the consequence of it? When you look into the reason why Santals were not successful, 3 or 4 reasons will come into it. 1, Santals lacked a reality check, in the sense they did not have any idea that whom we were fighting. Okay, the Britishers. Who were Britishers? They are a very well modernized force. Okay, with fighting with modern equipments, and you know that even though they were small in numbers, their leaders were very well trained. They were very well organized. They knew how to, you know, maintain their army. But on the other hand, you had Santals. One, you know, the leaders were highly dependent upon gods to come and save them, and second one, they had passion but lacked reason. And what were the equipments they were fighting with? They were fighting with spikes, arrows, etc. against a modern force. So you will know what is the outcome going to be. Similarly, for you, the lesson what did you learn from here is that you might have passions. Okay, when you look at a topper's video, or you know, like people who are from Karnataka will see, you know, Raviji Chennavar, who is one of the IPS officers, very famous here. You know, you will also feel, you know, even I have to become like that. That is passion. But you need to also apply reason. Okay, if you only have passion, or if you see Singham movie, you know, 2 days, 3 days it will motivate you. But you have to be reasonable. What it takes me to reach there? Okay, what is the effort I want to put in? Okay, what way I am going to put the effort? You know, today the trick is not which book. If you ask me, when I was preparing, you know, finding which book, finding which source, that was difficult. But today everything is at your fingertips. If you open your net, you have all the information. You have each topper in political science explaining which book to read, which book not to read. But the problem lies that how do I read that book? Okay, what to read in that book? Okay, Lakshmikant is a very well known book which you read for polity. But again, how do I read Lakshmikant? How do I retain the information? If I, you know, if you keep on reading without any idea, you won't know, right? And second one, okay, that was the knowledge part. Now coming to the application part in the exam. Many of you will understand after 1 year, once you start your preparation. Some people, you know, like they will be on a perception that, you know, I have read everything, I am going to pass the exam. But once you go sit in the examination hall, see, I can challenge you. If you read again 1 year completely, you read full 24 hours and you go, you take up the prelims paper. I think recently there was the prelims exam. If you go through the paper, even if you are a very well prepared candidate, there will be 30 to 40 questions where you won't have an idea, or you will have a brief idea. You would have heard about it, you have listened about it, but no clarity. Now this is where common sense comes into being. If you lack common sense in UPSC exams, definitely you are not going to crack the exam. Same with optional also. It is not only the bookish knowledge, you have to learn to apply the knowledge, you have to learn to connect with the newspaper articles you are going to read. And to give you an example for this, in I think when I wrote my prelims in 2015 or 2016, I don't remember, you know, there was this one particular question UPSC had asked. Okay, they had asked, you know, which of the following statements are correct about Karai camels. Okay, that was the very first time I heard about Karai camels in my whole life. I had never come across it, or I would have missed it while reading current affairs. Now the challenge is that, do I leave the question, okay, or do I attempt the question? So basically I read the question. The first statement said that, you know, these camels are found in the coastal region of Gujarat, and second statements told something about, you know, they feed on the mangroves which are found along the coast of Gujarat. Third statement, they told they live in the wild, they are not domesticated. And I looked at the options. Options said 1, 2, 3 are correct. option B said 2 and 3 are correct, option C said 1 and 3 are correct, option D said 1 and 2 are correct. Now I have not read, but let me use my common sense. You know, in today's world, when we are domesticating elephants, when we are domesticating lions, tigers, do you think a camel won't be domesticated? If you read the statement, they are told this animal is not domesticated, it lives only in wild. Okay, basically that's a fake statement. The moment you remove that statement, you know, you had the option set in such a way that the third statement goes away, you are left with only one option, that is 1 and 2. Go try in this year's question paper, you will find many questions like that. Now you ask me, sir, then like what is the logic here? See, logic is simple. UPSC is a very highly qualified institution which runs the exam, which wants to select candidates to, because you have to understand what you are going to become after selection. You are going to become an Indian Administrative Service Officer or Indian Police Service Officer or Indian Revenue Service. There are 22 services. No matter which service you get into, you will be the head of the administration in that particular department. Okay, like an IAS officer, you are the district collector, in charge of the whole district. Now when the government wants to give so much responsibilities in your hand, they have to pick candidates who are not just knowledgeable but who are also street smart, who can think under pressure. Why do you think you have 3 hours paper? If I give you 10 hours paper and tell you write the answers, there are few candidates who write better answers than the toppers. But they want to check, can you handle pressure, okay, can you think under pressure, okay. 99% of them who come here, they don't think, okay. They are like this horse, what do you call, you know, pardon me? Yeah, narrow, they look only one way, straight way, okay, this book I will read, this book I will read, this book I will read. That does not work. You have to understand the exam pattern. Look closely at all the government exams you write. You have you know, your state public service exam, you have SSC, you have FDA, you have SDA if you come to Karnataka, banking exams. Now if you look at the banking exams question papers, basically they will be more factual in nature. They will ask, you know, which event was held when, okay, why do you ask like that? Why they don't ask like UPSC? Why doesn't UPSC ask factual based question in the current trend? Because UPSC does not want to employ rote learning parrots. Now what do you mean by a rote learning parrot? Who bayards something and comes and produces in the exam. They don't want that. That is why the questions in UPSC will be more analytical based, thinking based, and that will expose the student, you know, those who have thought well and those who know well. So summing up, this PSIR, when we come to, we will approach it completely from an exam point of view, not from a subject point of view. And second one, we will try to read what is required for the exam and what is not required for the exam, and I will give you a brief idea how to do it, okay. Third part, reading is completely different. You might read, you will listen to the class, you will take down the notes, or we will give you certain printed notes, you will read certain books, but still you have to learn the art of answer writing. Okay, that is the biggest challenge, not with only political science, with any optional you take, okay, or any GS syllabus. The answer writing, it is a skill, it is an art, how do you write. There also, again I told, when you come to the mains exam, you might have some idea about some subject, but how do you connect with the topic, which is very much more important. For example, when I wrote my mains, there was this one question they had asked in UPSC, general studies, not political science. They had asked, you know, if you consider Nalanda and Takshashila universities, Takshashila cannot be considered as a modern day university in comparison to Nalanda. Discuss. You know, like I was wondering which book is this. I have read NCERT, it is not there. They have just mentioned Nalanda, they have mentioned Takshashila. Because I have read history well. I know I am strong in history. I always score well in history. Then I didn't know. I just wrote, you know, Nalanda is located in Bihar, Takshila is located in present day Pakistan. You know, Nalanda, Kautilya came out of Takshila, etc., etc. And when you looked, you know, they are not going to give you marks for that, because if you looked at UPSC syllabus or UPSC, you know, when they announce the notification, if you look at the mains column, clearly they have mentioned in the mains column, we are not looking for mere information. You see, if you want, you go and check UPSC's, you know, when they announce the notification, prelims and mains, in the mains section they would have given, here students information knowledge will be one checked, we are going to check his analytical abilities, who can analyze better. Now since I told one of my friend Darshan, right, I asked him what did you write, because he is not good in history. He told, I wrote an answer. I told, what is the answer you wrote? See, what is the question they have asked? They have told Nalanda is more comparable to modern day universities and Taxila is not, and they are asking you to elaborate the answer. He told, if you look at modern day universities, what will be there? Basically, I told, yeah, you will have library, you will have faculty, you will have separate students, you will get degrees. He told, write the same thing. In Taxila they were giving, in Nalanda they were giving this. In Taxila it was more of arbitrary form. So you might not score very high, but you are still going to get some marks because you have addressed the demand of the question. Got the point? First and foremost is that we should address the demand of the question. What is a general tendency when in our degree days, especially I don't know about others in engineering days, like what I have to do is that if I see one keyword, write whatever I know, fill the page, yeah, he is going to give you 2 marks, 1 marks, get somehow 35, internals 15, pass, I am a degree holder. But with UPSC there is one problem. See, I have been to 2 interviews, okay, but does that create any difference? No, right? I don't get any special degree, or is it that they are going to give some special concessions? Nothing. You have to come back to stage 1, appear for the exam again. Okay. So here in UPSC it is not the amount of money you are spending, it is the time which you are spending. Unless if you are in the final list. If you are not in the final list, you might gain knowledge, you might tell I have gained knowledge, I know more than that. But apart from that, you are not going to get anything. And if your communication skill is pretty good and you have hold over the subject, you can get some of the academies where you can teach 1 or 2 subjects. So that is why it is always better to have a strategy before you take a step with respect to UPSC exams. And similarly with respect to the political science optional, we have to go within a strategic manner, not purely in a race for completing the syllabus. We have to understand, we have to always see. I will tell you the methodology, what we are going to do and what we are going to do. So let us come back to political science now. Now, how many of you have gone through the syllabus? What is there in political science? Now, what do you have in paper 1? Now, what do you have in paper 1? Broadly, if you have looked into the syllabus. Okay. Okay, political thought, let us take it as political thought and theory, right. I hope most of you took a look at the syllabus, or you just like let's see, this is optional, it seems good. Okay. So you have political thought and political theory. Okay, this is part A, section A. Now what do you have in section B? You have 2 elements. You have modern Indian history, a small part, and the constitution, right. You have the you will read about non-cooperation movement, etc. You will also read about when you read GS, you will be reading about the Indian national movement, but here we won't go in such depth. Okay, we will be only looking at different perspective of the national movement. Like for example, now we got independence in 1947. Now the Dalit perspective of the national movement, if you take, now Dalit scholars, they will tell, have we really got freedom? Okay, they define freedom differently. They see it as something that power has been transferred from the Britishers to the upper caste Indians. And they have told, what is the use of it? The exploitation is again continuing. Before British were exploiting, now the upper caste Indians are exploiting. So for them, freedom is that when all Indians are free, then India will be free. Okay, there are different perspectives. There is a Marxist perspective of the Indian national movement. If you looked at the syllabus, it is there. Dalit perspective, Marxist perspective, liberal perspective. Okay, and you will be also looking at the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement. But here again, you have to understand there is a difference. When you read non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement in your general studies and your prelims, there for you dates are more important or certain personalities are more important. Here for us those are not so important. For us we have to analyze, okay, what was the strategy they used in non-cooperation movement, was it effective or not. Some people criticize, they have criticized Gandhi, like M.N. Roy, he criticizes Gandhi. he'll tell, you know, this non-cooperation movement is nothing but, you know, Gandhi was, you know, he had his hands tied with the business class in India, and that is why he'll tell, you know, Gandhiji never wanted to continue the movement. It was very short term because the business interest will be hurt. Okay, like this, we are going to analyze the movements from a different perspective. But at the same time, there are people who support Gandhi. They will tell, you know, why he suspended non-cooperation movement. Because Bipin Chandra says that, you know, if he had continued violence, the movement would have got out of control and Britishers would have had a reason to use extreme violence against us. So that was a master strategy by Gandhi, he praises him. On the other hand, some people criticize him. The whole political science is about this debate. Okay, there is no one particular answer for that. Okay, you have different perspectives. Some people criticize, some people support, okay, but you have to know the viewpoints, who is saying who, and based on the question, you have to make use of the viewpoint to support your arguments. That we will learn as we proceed on. Now, here in section A, I told you will be reading about political thought and theory. Again, political thought we are going to divide into two. One, you have the Western political thought, and then you have the Indian political thought. And in Western political thought, we have Greek political thought, but under this we will be studying only two thinkers, that is Plato and Aristotle. But sometimes we have to refer to few thinkers, okay, like if you are going to read about Plato, you have to know about Socrates, who was the master of Plato. And you know, when you study views of Plato, you will come to know that, you know, to great extent he was influenced by Socrates. You know, death of Socrates had a bearing on Plato's mind. Okay, so few thinkers will know, but we won't study Socrates in depth, okay, because if you go on to read, there are many things you have to read. So we are very narrowed down to knowing Plato. In Plato, there are certain theories which you have to know. Okay. Similarly, we will be reading about Aristotle. You know, Aristotle was a student of Plato, but at the same time is a big critic of Plato. Okay, he had criticized many of Plato's ideas. He's telling, you know, you are too radical. Okay, that we will be reading about that. So here, then you have the other thinkers, Machiavelli. Okay, we will be reading about Machiavelli. Then we will be reading about Hobbes. Then you will read about Locke. Then you will be reading about J.S. Mill. Then you will be reading about Marx. Then you have Gramsci. And you will be reading about Penn. Okay. You will be reading about Hannah Arendt. Okay, so these are the thinkers you will be reading about with respect to the Western political thought. Now here, what exactly are we going to read? Sir, do I need to know, you know, Machiavelli has written a book called as The Prince. Do I need the original book? You see, if you want to read the original book, it is many volumes. Plato has written a book called as Republic, Laws and the Statesman. So do I need to read those books? No, okay. You don't need to read all those original books. We will be only reading the commentaries on these books, okay, or we will be referring to some material on these books, okay. Excuse me. Okay. Let me again write here because it might be not visible for the online candidates. My handwriting is not so good, so please adjust, but your handwriting should be good, because I was one of the person who neglected this aspect, you know, handwriting doesn't make a difference as long as it is legible. But now myself, when I evaluate few papers, you know, I feel yes, handwriting does have an impact on the mind of the examiner. As I told, coming back here, as I told, we won't be reading the original works, okay. That's what I told, street smart, where it comes into being. Now if you are reading newspapers or your editorial pages, you know, here and there you will come across certain political philosophers in some editorial page, you know, some author would have used. I used to do one mistake. What was the mistake initial days I did? Rajni Kothari is one of the political scholar we use in Indian political system. He comes, he was the person who coined the term Congress system, and he's written a book, I think Politics in India or something like that. I brought that book from Amazon. I read the whole book, and then I read Shashi Tharoor's Pax Indica, David Malone's Can Elephant Dance or something like that. I read the whole book. That is the year I got 160. Okay. Then I asked my friend. He was also telling, I wrote this scholar's name. I wrote this book name. I told him, how did you read so many books? He told, who read the book? And I told him, how did you know? He told, no, you read some standard book. They would have given, this person has written book, or many times you are reading newspaper. If India-Afghan relation comes, he used to tell, I know Harsh V. Pant. There he has written a book, I forgot the name of the book, I will quote that book and tell Harsh V. Pant told like this. Or if you, like he used to tell, when you watch a movie, that fellow used to tell every time, this movie is like this movie is like that. I told, how do you get so much time to see all the movies? He told, who sees the movies? I used to read the review in the movies and make a thing. If you observe in Hindu page, on I don't know which day, they give certain called as book reviews. Okay, yeah, Sunday book reviews. There you have to keep an eye on it. Recent political science books will come out, but they'll give you a review of the book, a core idea in that book, and that is what you have to use in the exam. The reason is simple, right? The evaluator won't come to your house and ask you, tell me what are the other points in the book. He'll assume that you know this particular book. That is being street smart. Similarly here, we won't be reading their holistic, original works, because as a part of my public policy, I have read the original work of Hannah Arendt, and I can tell you I couldn't complete half the book. Okay, the language she has used, like that's what I told. Scholarly approach is completely different, and an exam oriented approach is completely different. Okay, so what we have to understand is that we won't be reading the original works of these scholars. We will be just looking into the theories of the scholars, and I will be giving you printed notes of the 8 scholars which are there, but I will give you once the portion is over. Okay, once I do the class, explain you, so you can read about it. So that is how I will be providing you the notes. Once I complete certain part, I will give you a printed copy, or certain written notes will be there, which will Xerox like this, and I will be giving to you. So these are notes prepared by me. Prepared by me in the sense I have not prepared on my own. I have used certain standard materials which are there and added few examples here and there. So these are the thinkers you will be reading out. Now what is the method of reading them, because this is more important as we go on. See, in every theory I will tell, it will be going to be like this. Okay, I will give you one small example. I will take Aristotle's example. Okay, a small theory, we won't go into depth. Now every time what happens in the exam point of view, if you look at the questions in the exam, take and look at the exam. So first and foremost thing what you have to do is that download or buy any copy of previous year political science question papers from 1970s to recent 2020. Okay, you will get it in the market, or you can download online. There are a lot of websites which are there, or you tell me I will only download once a Telegram group is formed, I will share in the Telegram group. Now this is very much important for you, the question paper, not only with respect to political science, with respect to your GS syllabus also. Your previous year question paper is your best guide, not even me, okay, not even insights. Your previous year question paper is your biggest. We are just a facilitator, we will help you to connect to that. Now why previous year question papers? It will give you a clear cut idea what you have to read. Okay, if you keep looking at the previous year question papers as you read, you will know what are the areas which you have to know well. Okay, because see, you can't read, if you look at the actual syllabus in political science, as my friend told his degree days, for him how much years it took you to do your masters? 2 years, right? Do you have 2 years time to sit here and invest? No, it's hardly 4 to 5 months you have to prepare the subject upon, right? So don't do a research upon it. Take previous year questions, keep an eye on all the questions have come. Okay, when you read Plato, look at all the previous year questions which have come on Plato, see whether you can answer them, or is there any element which is missing. We will read about it. That's it. Close. Don't need to worry. And second thing, when you see the questions they will never ask, who is Plato, write about Plato. They will give certain quotations and they will tell, comment on it, or they will ask a question and they will tell, critically analyze it. Okay, discuss, substantiate, elucidate, elaborate, right? this is one area we have to focus upon. See, we are not only looking from teaching the subject, we will go about with respect to applying from an exam point of view. Now, why I told you have to be aware when we are reading, even you have to keep analyzing it, the topics which are discussing. Now, as I told, in Aristotle, they in 1 year that asked critically analyze Aristotle's view on slavery. Okay. So, what do you mean by critically analyze? Most of the mistakes what students will do is that they will read about Aristotle's slavery. It's simple. Okay. What Aristotle will tell, he will tell everybody are not born equal. Some men are born to rule, some men are born to serve. And who is a master and who is a slave? How does he decide? He decides based on reason. One who is very educated, one who is reasonable, he becomes the master, and the master will always take part in the political affairs. Okay, at that time. Who is a slave? When you do not have reason, you cannot participate in the political affairs, you have to look after the domestic affairs. Okay. And he will tell it is very useful. Okay. How he will tell it is useful? For master, he does not say, it will save his time from the domestic duties, he can completely focus on his political affairs. For the slave, because he will be company of the master can give him also reason, so at some point of time even he will become reasonable, then he will gain his freedom. Now, this is a theory, okay, in a small way I told, there is more to it, once we will start that we will look at it. Now, when they have asked the question critically examine, if you write only this much, you will get half the marks. Why? Can any one of you tell why you will get only half the marks? What is missing? Yeah, what do you mean by critical analysis?
It suppresses the liberty of the one who is a slave, act as a slave. So it not give him a freedom, liberty.
Very good. Critical analysis means, when he is told an idea, what is your view? Do you agree with his idea or do you disagree with his idea? But we can't write, right? I disagree with Aristotle, you can't write like that. You have to bring one more scholar there. Now, when you read, you will read something about Immanuel Kant, who speak about human dignity. Immanuel Kant says, man should be the end product, he should not be the means we have to not make use of something to achieve our ends, he should be the end. So, when you look at this Aristotle's theory, you will tell, okay, Aristotle told this, but even though he is arguing that slavery is, is justified on principle of utility, okay, or is justified on the principle of utility, but does it satisfy human dignity? Just because if something is useful, can we make use of that thing? Right? If you go by Aristotle's logic that everything should be looked from a utility perspective, then we can also justify prostitution. We can also justify human exploitation which is happening today, right? The opinion varies, it is up to you, okay. You can be an economist and tell what Aristotle telling is correct, because for Greek economy at that time to run they needed slaves. If slavery was not there, Greek economy would have not run. That I leave it to you, but you need to bring that critical analysis part. That is why after every theory we read, we will be going through something called as critical evaluation. I will give you the points, but in the class, okay, for the online students they can write those points wherever they are, but for the offline students you can tell the points, okay, what do you have critically analyzed about that viewpoint, what do you think, because I want you to develop the thinking process. I do not want you to become some rote learning parrot, just by heart and go there. Think, that is what I told. This exam is all about thinking, not just reading. Read and think. Now, why editorial pages are very useful for the exam, why everybody will tell read editorial, it is not because of the information. When you read editorial, certain scholars or certain experts, there will be some issue which will have happened, they will give their view on that, okay. Like I was reading one of the editorials in EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. We have to keep an eye on it sometime when it goes. Not all the issues, some important, the farm bill issues which was going on. And I found one very interesting viewpoint there. One of the person had argued that why farm bill needs to be opposed. He says that basically farm bills will open up the gates for the corporate sector or the big businesses to enter the market. And he says what will happen once the big businesses enter, basically they will start large scale movement of agricultural products from one region to the other, means you can see these large trucks based, and his argument that it is ecologically destructive because more pollution is going to happen. See, now you might think what is this silly argument, but it is true. Okay, that is why reading Yojana magazine, you read Yojana, it is written by present IAS officers, research scholars, and they give very good viewpoints. And in essay, an essay every time I have scored pretty well when I wrote the exam. One of the reason was that I was reading always Yojana, and they used to give wonderful points. In one of my essay, I only felt happy because how I wrote the essay. Like this, there was this one essay regarding need brings greed, greed destroys the breed. Okay, it's a philosophical essay. But since I had read Yojana, I had read newspaper pretty well, I was very able to articulate my viewpoint. I told, see, we as humans, we have need. Okay, need for what? I need food to eat, I need clothing, I need entertainment. Okay, but if the need sometimes when we start becoming it can turn into greed, then you can quote the story of there was this king Meander who wanted to turn everything into gold which he touched. Okay, and what happened? His own daughter turned into gold. And then I was able to connect with cricket. Okay, because that time Muhammad Amir was caught in spot fixing. I linked the point, cricket is a source of entertainment, it's our need, we need some source of entertainment. But because cricket has become so commercialized today, greed has crept into it. Now what greed did, it took away a very young talent called as Muhammad Amir. He got into spot fixing and ultimately destroyed the breed, right? The game of the cricket came into questioning, is it qualitative? So widen your thinking process, don't stick only to the books. Okay, that is what majority of people will do, is that they will only think from a book perspective. Try to read articles, okay, but at the same time don't take it as sir, I will read all the magazines. That is not required. Be selective, try to collect certain viewpoints. So similarly here, when we speak about a scholar, his viewpoint, we are going to understand his viewpoint, then we have to critically analyze. And don't be in a hurry to critically analyze. Why? Now when you read Plato, you don't know about Aristotle, okay, but once you read Aristotle, you will be a better critic of Plato. Got the point? Once you read Aristotle, you might be know few things like Immanuel Kant, but when you read Machiavelli, you become a very good critic of even Aristotle and Plato. And similarly, once you read all the thinkers, you are going to get very good idea, interlinking of the thinkers. See, books will give you the theory, okay, notes will give you the theory, but interlinking you have to develop. When you are reading the subject itself, you have to think, okay, Marx has told like this, but what has Gandhi told? Okay, Plato has told like this, what has Marx told? Who is correct? Got the point? You have to create that curiosity in your mind. You have to always apply the lens of one scholar to the other scholars. Once you start doing it from an initial stage, right, you will be a very good start to the subject, you will get hold of the subject. And like people say, some optionals are favored, now political science is given marks, or political science is cleared, or anthropology is getting marks, public administration, I didn't even. See, that I won't accept. I won't. If you look at the results, every year you have toppers from every subject. The point is that, do you know the subject well? Not from a knowledge point of view, from an exam point of view, you have to know what, if you write, what will get you marks. Yeah, there can be few things, like certain times when you write the same answer, you might end up getting 330 in the exam. But if the subject has not done well, or UPSC has been harsh on the subject, it does not mean you will get 200, you will end up somewhere getting 290. Got the point? That is what I told you, if you have quality in you, you will be always above average. But when you do not have quality in you, you have to depend upon which year certain subject is boosted. Got the point? So for this you need to have a clear idea, like how to write, what if I write will fetch marks. And how do I know that? Because I have seen my score go from 160 to 290. I have experienced like how to write, how to approach, what are the tricks in the exam. This is not about knowledge. So these are the scholars will be reading, and why these scholars are very important for the exam, because if you see the syllabus, you can see you have ideologies, then you have democracy, then you have power, then you have authority, then you have equality, then you have justice. Then you tell, sir, what so much is there? But trust me, if you know these scholars well, right, it is nothing but repetition of the same. Now Aristotle would have, I told, theory of slavery. Now what is your deduction from what I told, if you want to relate to equality? What can you deduct?
He did not give importance to
Very good, tell what is not given.
personal growth of
No, I am telling if you relate it to equality, the theory of slavery, if you connect to the concept of equality, what will you connect?
equality.
Basically he does not believe in equality, he believes inequality is natural, right. So when you study the chapter on equality, nothing but you will be reading again about Aristotle, you will be again reading about Marx, okay. The same one person would have told one thing about equality. So equality is something new you will be reading, it is nothing but a repetition of the scholars. So that is why I told in part A, okay, if you are very good with the scholars, if you know them in and out, you know how to connect, what is their viewpoint, it is very easy, it is not at all difficult. And if you can see, you will read about Marx here, then you have a chapter called as ideologies, political ideologies, there again you have Marxism. What is Marxism? Nothing but viewpoints of Marx. Then you have Indian political thought, you have Gandhi, and again in political ideologies you have Gandhiism. What is Gandhiism? It is nothing but ideas of Gandhi. Got the point? You will be reading about liberalism. What is liberalism? It is nothing but John Locke is considered the father of liberalism. Same, the ideas of Locke, how it developed further and how J.S. Mill contributed to it. And if you take your sectional paper 2, we have not yet come to that, there also the same scholars are very much useful for your international theories. So got the point? This subject is very much repetitive. Okay, if you see it will look like there is so much to it, but it is very much repetitive. And now again when we read Aristotle, Plato, Locke, Bentham, okay, they are highly relevant for your ethics preparation also, because in ethics you have something called as philosophical scholars. You will be making use of what Aristotle told, what Plato told, you can use it. But the problem is what happens to students is that they have to know how to use it. Okay, you will know the quotations, but you have to know when to use that quote, where to bring. It's like you have a very good suit, okay, a suit, but you have to know on what occasion to wear that suit. If you go to a death ceremony wearing the suit, basically you will be making a fool out of yourself, right. Similarly a quotation, you have to know in what context you have to bring. See, answer writing, this is subject, knowledge you will read, answer writing is a different skill, okay, do not get confused with knowledge and answer writing, they are two completely different elements. But when you are preparing itself, you go with a framework of an answer writing approach, it will make things easier for you, okay. Answer writing, like essay writing, answer writing, all is about, I will tell you, you are a role of a director, a movie director. What is the main thing in a movie direction? When a movie has to become a hit, what is a core element? The script should be strong. Similarly, in your answer, in your essay, in your ethics, the script should be strong, the structure should be strong. Only then the person who sees that, he will be able to understand. Then what is this quotations and all, data, quotations, etc. These are all like the movie actors. Like you can employ Shah Rukh Khan into a movie, okay, a high skilled movie, a very good quote. But if you use Shah Rukh Khan in zero movie and the movie flopped in the box office because he didn't have a script. Similarly, if you use just quotation, sir, I have used lot of quotation in the answer, but still UPSC is not giving me marks, sir, because the script is not strong, you don't know where to use, right. Now if you look at KGF movie, which was a blockbuster hit, if you see the script, it is not so, something which is different, but the narration of the script and the moments where they bring the dialogues in, that amplifies the effect. Similarly, on what context you bring your quotes, where do you quote them, that also matters. So as we read, what we are going to do is that, now starting for 2-3 weeks there will be no answer writing thing, because you have to know the subject first. But once we feel that you have sufficient knowledge, we will start the answer writing approach, like every week 2 answers to write. And basically classes will be from Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday there will be a holiday for you. So you can invest sufficient time on weekends to think about the answers, reflect on the answer. So we will go in 3 stages. The first criteria for us will be making you to understand the demand of the question. What do I mean by the demand of the question? Once I do Plato, I will give you 2 or 3 previous year questions. I want you to first think what exactly if they asked in the question. The question will be always about Plato, but what exactly about Plato they are asking? You have to tell me what is that they have asked. Okay, what is I am going to write. Okay. Second part of the thing will be making your answer multi-dimensional, means can we connect something to the current affairs. To give you again one more example, when you read Plato, you will be reading about his views on democracy. Okay, he has a view on democracy, I will tell. Now Plato does not have a, what you can say, a positive view of democracy. He dislikes democracy. Now why does he dislike democracy? You will read, when we go through it you will come to know, because he blames democracy for death of Socrates. Socrates was his political guru or a knowledge guru. So what does this, when Socrates dies, I will tell you the instance why he dies and why Plato becomes angry. For Plato, the point was that Socrates was a highly knowledgeable and a very intelligent man. For him, he is the wisest man on this earth, okay, because he understood knowledge. I will explain the theory of knowledge of Socrates also as we go on. And in democracy, many of you will be surprised thinking, it is not something new. It has been existent since ancient India, ancient times. If you take our Vedic society, early Rig Vedic period, there was democracy. Okay, it was not like that there was no democracy, there was democracy. Even in Greek society, he belongs to Athens, okay, city state of Athens. There also there will be democracy. But what Plato will observe is that the problem with democracy is that it is a form of governance which allows any Tom, Dick and Harry to come to power. Means any person, you have knowledge, you do not have knowledge, but if you have oratory skills, you can come to power. The problem is that when they come to power, they do not know how to rule because they are half educated. So what is going to happen? He will tell, it results in disaster. Okay. And for him to give a solution from all this, that is where Plato writes his book called as Republic, how my state should be and how I am going to select my ruler. That ruler himself called philosophical king, means the king should be always a philosopher. Okay, we will go into that in depth, but this is a way guide. Now you will read this, okay. Now I will tell, okay, critically analyze Plato's philosopher king. Now you will write the theory, this happened, this happened. But now 1 or 2 candidates, okay, they will try to think, sir, can we look at today's India's democracy and can we look at the recent, this, I forgot the name of that organization, they released a data saying that the number of criminals who have entered the Indian parliament has been consistently on rise. That is true to what Plato told, right? Plato says people do not have wisdom to elect the right ruler. When they do not have wisdom, they do not make the right choice. That is why he tells we should not have democracy. We have to always select the best ruler, the most knowledgeable person. So this is how you need to apply the theories, okay. Now I can give you 1 or 2 examples, or what we can do is that as we told Shubhra Ranjan, madam, because even there I will be always grateful to her, because even me, I studied her notes. I have not attended her classes, but I have studied her notes. Her notes is one of the best notes in India, if you say. Now the problem lies where is that if 3000 candidates in India or 1500 read the same notes and produce the same answer in the exam hall, basically the examiner is not going to give you marks, right? There should be some element of creativity. So this is where smart work should come. So we have to replace the examples, we have to connect with the recent trend. So that who can do? It's only who you can do. I can give you leads, okay, see recently this data has been released, try to connect with this topic. But you have to learn the art of connecting, because you will attend the class for 3.5 months, right? The class will end, then you will be on your own. But in these 3.5 months, what did you learn? For me, if you tell I learned political science, sir, no, that you can learn without me also. But what you learned was that I know how to attend the exam, sir, I know what to pick, what to connect. Got the point? So as you read current affairs, your mind should be working. As you read political science on the sidelines, okay, where to connect, what to connect. Got the point? So you will be reading in newspaper something called as the percentage of women in Indian parliament recently is just 12%. When feminism comes chapter, you have to connect that. Got the point? See, that is the beauty of political science. you do this with minimum knowledge, you will score more marks. But on the other hand, you know every theory, but you just go produce the theory, you will end up below average marks. Got the point? This is only called as UPSC perspective. What is different from a degree perspective and a UPSC perspective? Degree, it's more of theoretical based. In UPSC, it is more who connects the theory with current events, who has that imagination to connect what. Got the point? So this is one thing we will be looking at. So three things. When we do a thinker, one will read about his theory, okay, what is required for the exam, not the whole. If you take Plato, he is called as the father of political philosophy. There is nothing which Plato has not spoken about, but we won't be reading so in depth. We will be only limiting ourselves to whatever it is required from the exam point of view. Once we read his theory, we will critically analyze, critically evaluate. There you have to know what are the counter viewpoints which are there. And then previous year question papers. This should be your trend. After every chapter you do, you have to look at the previous year question papers, or in the printed notes which I will give you. I have given you the previous year question papers at the back of the page. And the other thing what is that, I have given certain quotations. After every scholar there is a quote. Now why I told, you have to quote in the exam. See, you can generally write, Aristotle gave the theory of slavery, but I will add the answer. Aristotle says, from the hour of birth, some men are born to rule, some men are born to be ruled or born to serve. See, you might not quote the exact thing, but at least 60 to 70% should be there. What is it? You can make minor changes. That's no problem. So what does it take, sir? Then how, sir? I'll read one quote, I'll easily produce. No, you have to practice these quotes 3-4 times. You have to write in a book, practice in a book. Only then you will be able to quote. But doesn't mean you have to read 100 quotes. Keep 3 or 4 quotes. Use the same quotes wherever you get. Because Aristotle, one question will come. They are not going to ask 3-4 questions. You can use any one quote. Got the point? So that is how we will be going ahead with this part. And political theory, I told. Once we read the thinkers, the second thing what we will be doing is that we will go into ideologies. Okay, so when you come to ideologies, you have liberalism, you have idealism, you have Marxism, you have fascism, you have feminism, okay, postmodernism. These are the different ideologies. So we will be going to understand how this particular ideology came about, what are the core tenets of this ideology, okay, and then we will be also looking into what are the criticism against these ideologies, okay. And certain times UPSC will surprise you, okay, like you would have read, but you would have not read that perspective what UPSC is asked. But all you have to do is, that's what I told, think. One of the exams they had asked about feminism. I was like, I was stumped seeing the question. Like I had not read anything about this. They had asked, feminism is biased. Discuss. What do you read? Feminism is biased. Then after thinking for some time, yes, I got the point. I was able to connect. So first I wrote about what is feminism, what are the core arguments of feminism. Then I told, yeah, feminism is biased to a certain extent, because somewhere I had read when reading international, because I told it will repeat, feminism again will repeat in international politics. Feminist scholars argue, if the rulers of the state are women, they always tell women are more connected with nature, women by nature are peace loving, and they will tell if women goes on to become the head of the states, there will be more peace in the world, there will be more, the countries are not going to go to war. Now then I gave an example telling, if it is so, then when Indira Gandhi became the Prime Minister of India, why did India go to a war with Pakistan in 1971? When Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of Britain, the character of the British state did not change. So I argued feminism is biased in a certain extent, telling that gender alone influences many things. No, gender is just one of the factors. A state is controlled by many other factors such as national interest, such as its ideology, etc., etc. They will give you marks. Even if you have written 2-3 points, they will give you marks. Why? Because you have analyzed it well. Now sir, where this is there in the book? It is not there in the book. Got the point? It is not there in the book. It is your thinking process. You have to take one point and try to connect it. Got the point? But it does not mean you end up your answer telling feminism is completely biased. You have to tell, not tell, but feminism argues for women empowerment. So positive thing. So all your answers should end on a positive note. Okay, they need somebody who writes on a positive note, not telling so and so is the problem, nothing is good, everything is bad. Government does not need them. They need some positive thinking process. That is why usually they'll tell, when you write your conclusions or your way forward, try to present a positive picture, try to give suggestions that how the things can be improved. Got the point? So that's why I told, looking at previous year questions, connecting into the topic, simple, 3 simple steps. You don't worry about which book to read. I'll tell you certain books now, but you got the point, right? What to do, what you not have to do. Don't dwell deep into, take out one previous year question. What some people, some common mistakes they'll do. They'll take previous year question paper. They'll go type in Google, okay, from which part of this book which has done. Then they'll go read that book. Now you ask, who is that fool who did it? He's standing in front of you. Okay, because I did it when I got my first, first time I failed in my mains, right? I did it. I went and searched in Google. They told it's some, I felt very happy because 3-4 questions came from some Kolkata-based professor's book. I told 100% I found this source of the book, I read, but next time no question came from the book. Otherwise, so basically I understood. Here the point of view is not which book you read, it is basically the concept you read, the concept you understand. Okay. So now for the this part of your syllabus, you have to refer to 2 books. Okay. One is the printed material which will be provided by me. And second one, there is a book called as OP Gauba. Fine, this is a book, it is, if you take this book, it's a blue color book, you will find it online, and this book, it doesn't cover your thinkers part, but it covers the theory part. Okay, what is political theory, what is the difference between political philosophy and political science, what is democracy, what is equality, all these chapters are covered in this OP Gauba book. But it has certain extra elements which you can tend to ignore, which is not there in the syllabus part of it. So purely stick to the syllabus and what has been given. So but I will be giving notes for these also, the printed notes, but I will always encourage you to read the textbook. Okay, but textbook reading is also an art. See, what happens is that when you read a book, you will see it is a 400 pages book. Now the question will arise, how can I remember 400 pages book for the exam, right? Yeah, you cannot remember that, that is there, but you have to know, like if they have given, like see, for example, I will tell you, now here they have given a heading, okay, in your textbooks you will see, and there will be one big passage here. Now when you read this passage for the first time, you read it completely, but when you skim through, you have to know what is the crux idea the whole passage is presenting. The point is that in exam, no matter how much you read about feminism or how much you read about Plato, etc., you cannot write an answer more than 150 words, or for a 15 marker question it will be 250 words. That's all. Your content is about 150 words. But if you are yourself, you make a notes of 5000 pages to write an exam which carries only 150 marks, it doesn't help. That's why reading a book is skimming through it. Okay, if you look at the heading, you have to just know what are the 2-3 points you remember there. That's all. So what happens is that once you read, the second time you revise, you can revise the book very quickly. This is the same thing with your GS syllabus. Like because I do mentorship here also, like certain students, sir, Lakshmikant, there is so many points, how can I remember that? You don't need to remember all. Salient features of the Indian Constitution, they will give you 8 to 9, 10 points, but under that they will give a big explanation. You don't need to remember that big explanation, but it is only for your understanding. But you have to remember that heading, because in exam you will be using that particular heading and write 2 or 3 lines what you know about it. Got the point? So based on this, only these 2 books are enough to cover your complete of part A, and by previous year question paper. Okay, this is your guide. You have to have it with you at any cost, and also keep a printed copy of the syllabus. How many of you have taken the printout of the syllabus? 1, 2, you? No. So if whoever has not taken, please take out a printed copy of the syllabus. Keep all the syllabus always with you, not only for political science, even for your general studies. Always be looking at the syllabus. because reading syllabus itself, you have to revise the syllabus multiple times, you have to get hold of what is there in the syllabus, then it will help you to weed out the unnecessary things. When you are reading current affairs, right, you might feel, when you go to Insight's website, you will have, like so much is there. Many students say, sir, how can we remember so much? You don't need to remember all. We will provide most of the information to give you that coverage, but you have to be also very selective in what to read, what not to read. So this you got a clarity with respect to your part A. Got it? You have any doubts here regarding part A? Anything if you have, you can ask. Okay. Now coming to part B, that is the modern Indian history and constitution. Now here, as I told, that's why I told political science is one subject where there is a high overlap with your general studies syllabus, because as I told, now you saw something which you will be reading about ethics, okay, essay writing, it will be highly useful. Now this part is a huge overlap with your GS paper 1 and GS paper 2. Now here modern history, one difference here is that we won't be reading modern history. Like what happens is that you have to understand, for different stages you need to read differently. For prelims, now they can ask a question, they can give match the following, right, Commonwealth, New India, etc. These are the books which have been written, and they will give Annie Besant, Gandhi, etc. Match the following. For this it is not required here. But what is required here is the analysis of it. You have to be able to analyze things. Now here first and foremost, what you will be reading here is that we will be reading about what are the different perspectives of the Indian national movement. As I told before, the Dalits have a different perspective of the national movement, the Marxists have a different perspective of the national movement, the liberals have a different perspective of the Indian national movement, the colonizers, the Britishers who colonized us, they have a different perspective of the national movement. Now we have to look into what are the different perspectives. So here we will broadly look into, not going to minute detail, for when you read about Dalit perspective, as I told, they are critical of the freedom struggle, they are critical of Gandhi, okay, some Dalit scholars are critical of Gandhi, and they are critical of the Indian National Congress, the Dalit scholars. Now why they are critical, they will tell, this is a Brahmin Baniya party, okay, and they will take the example of, okay, look at the leaders who led the party, most of them were Brahmins or most of them were from upper caste, how can they think of lower caste? But you have defenders also, like you have Bipin Chandra who defends the Indian National Congress and Gandhi. He will tell, what Dalit scholars miss is that when we look at the Indian national movement, he will tell there were frictions happening at two levels. One between the British colonizers and we Indians, and second one was between Indians themselves, that is the upper caste, lower caste, this Hindi and South Indians, etc. But what Indian National Congress did, that they couldn't take both issues at a time. Okay, it is not possible to one way you fight British and other way you take up. They wanted unity among Indians. So what they did was that they subverted the second cause for the sake of first cause. They told, let us address, get freedom from British, then look into the internal problems what we have. So that is how Bipin Chandra defends the Congress. So you will be reading about these viewpoints, about, okay, again Marxist viewpoint, okay, one thing. Second one, we will be also looking into important events which happened during the Indian national movement, the non-cooperation movement, role of Gandhi in the Indian national movement, and you will be also looking into civil disobedience movement, quit India movement. So this is nothing new, whatever you are reading in modern India, same here, but only thing that it is more analytical based, that is it. We do not need to remember so many names, whose contribution what. Broadly we have to, okay, what was the strategy which Gandhi used during the freedom struggle. So and so. For this you do not need any other book, you can refer to Spectrum. I think most of you will know that Spectrum which you use for your general studies, but only one thing is that here when you read Spectrum, if you look in some boxes they would have given quotes, so and so he told, okay, that you won't be reading in your GS, okay, but for political science you have to read one or two quotes to use them in your answer, okay. Like there is one of the quote, I forgot the name of that British Governor General, he will tell when Britishers arrest Annie Besant, he will tell, Britishers are making a mistake, because Annie Besant is like Parvati. When Shiva cut Parvati, you know, she into 52 pieces, they became 52 Parvatis. Like that, Annie Besant. The moment you arrest Annie Besant, it is going to take a mass struggle. Like certain quotations, what you should know. That I will tell as we go. That which quote you have to know, what use. But rest is everything general studies. There is no difference between political science and your GS paper. And for this, that's why I told Spectrum, which is your book, a small book which is that you can use it. And then you have the Indian Constitution. Here the first, yeah.
So one doubt, like we know in modern history Pune Pact happened.
Yeah.
So at that point of time, we should analyze like Ambedkar should have accepted it or not. Like
Yes.
how it is different from JS, or how it is different in political science perspective.
See, there is not so much of difference, okay. But here in political science perspective, you have to know Ambedkar's view, because after Pune Pact, Ambedkar will tell, it was my first political defeat. Okay, I did a grave mistake by accepting Pune Pact. And you will be reading bit here where he makes a quote saying is that when you have segregated somebody socially, what is wrong in segregating them politically? Okay. But the same thing you can use in your GS also. There is no major difference. That does not, like today you can see many people are using that stuff even in their GS answer. But you don't need to go completely from a theoretical based in GS, but here bit of theoretical based. But the viewpoints remains the same. There is no major difference as per se. But here the analysis more it comes to being. Like you know, when you talk about Pune Pact, you have to bring Gandhi's view, you have to bring Ambedkar's view, or there is some scholar who would have commented on Gandhi's view and Ambedkar's view. You have to bring them. Okay. Then you try to connect to your point. What do you think? That's the thing.
So like it is, our conclusion should be like positive note, like what has happened has happened. It should have been like opposite thing should have happened. How?
No, no. See, conclusion it depends upon what is the arguments have you brought. Okay. See, if I brought an argument telling that they should have been politically segregated, but if I end my conclusion like that, it doesn't make sense. But if I bring an argument saying that like Gandhi had realized his mistake when he gave the communal, when he recognized the communal electorates with respect to the Muslim League in Lucknow Pact, it resulted later in creating a separate state of Pakistan. So there might be a chance when he would have accepted the communal electorates for the Dalits, they would have completely become a separate entity. And what is Gandhi's view is there, he'll tell, because this was asked in prelims also. I see, yeah, one more thing I forgot. Now today prelims questions you see in polity, it is no longer just Lakshmikant polity. They have gone into the sphere of political science. This year's question, constitutional government. Okay, it is nothing but Locke's idea, limited government. And if you look, they had asked one question this year prelims, that what are the common elements between Gandhi and Marx? What's the point? That's what I told. Today UPSC is also going into, in general studies, bit towards political science. Okay, political science is nothing but your general polity. So there is no difference as per se, but when you told about the arguments, there should be consistency in the arguments you are carrying to the conclusion. So if I used to write the answer, I will see, like when you write, you should have given them separate electorates, that will lead to a secessionist tendency. So you can bring arguments of Ambedkar, what Ambedkar told, then you can bring Gandhi's argument defending his viewpoint or his standpoint, that once we done a mistake, it resulted in a separate state of Pakistan. And second one, Gandhi is of the view, he will exactly tell, they have asked in prelims, that why did Gandhi reject Pune Pact? The reason is that there is a special dialogue, he says. If we, sorry, not Pune Pact, why he rejected communal electorate, communal award of 1932. Because he will tell, if we had accepted the communal award, the untouchables would have remained untouchables in perpetuity. Okay, that is the exact thing he tells. So you can bring those dialogues and tell that is why Gandhi moved towards. But what Ambedkar feels is that after that not much was done to the empowerment of the depressed classes. That is what he feels. So you can use his quote and mix both of them and write on that even after independence, the Dalits exploitation is continuing. But we as a society, we have to try to address the issue, something like that. Got the point? Yeah. Any other doubt here? Yeah, coming to the constitution part, you can start with Lakshmikant. Okay, basic what is there in Lakshmikant. But here there is one book which you can use as a reference. Okay, what I mean by reference book, you don't need to read this book. end to end, but you can use as a reference to refer some extra material. That is Fadia and Fadia. That is the Indian Government and Politics. There is a book by Fadia and Fadia which is called as the Indian Government and Politics. Okay, this is a 400 pages book. It's pretty fat, so don't get you know, like what you can scared by the quantum of the book. As I told, it's a reference book. You don't need to read the book end to end, but for specific chapter where you feel Lakshmikant is not enough, just try to go into this book. Now here, coming to here, the first part which I told with respect to part here if we look at the syllabus, it is 80% static. What do I mean by static? There is very much relevance for current events here or current issues here. Okay, only here or there you can connect to the current issues. But if you look at the questions, nobody is going to ask directly a question on current affairs. It is mainly about theories, and you see many times questions are repeated. You try to see UPSC's last 10 years paper of political science, half of the time questions are repeated. That's what I told you. If you prepare very well on previous year questions, half of the times you can answer them very easily. So 80% is static, only 20% is dynamic with respect to your part A. But with respect to your part B, here it is 50% static and 50% is dynamic. Dynamic in the sense they are going to ask you questions which are in use from last 1 year or 2 years. Now if you see, last time they had asked on NEET, okay, that is the national eligibility entrance test which is going on. Now you can see, sir, how is NEET linked to political science? It is linked to federalism. Okay. Now states are telling how can center design a course for education. Basically, though education is a concurrent subject, they are telling it will be a disincentive for people who come from the state background. You can see there was a Tamil Nadu girl who committed suicide and there was a huge protest over it. And today also there is discussions happening in the news media that how NEET, they are telling center is occupying the space of the states. Okay. So what happens is that here, that's why I told, only textbook approach won't work. Okay. For few of the chapters here like social movements, women movements, environmental movements in India, we will be providing you the printed notes of it. But as you read, please try to read a few editorial pages in Hindu, Indian Express, okay. Sir, then you can ask, sir, do I need to read every day? So how do I keep a tab on? Don't you think it will be very hectic for me? How do I know? No, not every day. What you have to do is that when you are reading any current affairs material, anything, it might be insights material or any material which you are referring to, keep an eye on the issues. Okay. Like when NEET, okay, the moment you open, if you type NEET and open Indian Express, opinions and editorials, you will get some 10 to 12 editorials written by contemporary political scholars. Like my friend told that time, Rajiv Bhargava sir, who had visited his college. Okay, he is a very person who is in news, whose views carry lot of weightage in the exam. You have to quote him. And you have Banu Pratap Mehta, who also writes regularly in Indian Express. So when you keep an eye on these people, you have to just collect their viewpoints. Okay, what does Banu Pratap Mehta say about this particular issue? And how we need to collect the viewpoints is that we have to collect two different viewpoints. Okay, to give you an example, we have something called as judiciary in the syllabus. Same thing what is in Lakshmikant you will be reading. Okay, like what is Supreme Court, how is High Court. But if you see in the question in the exam, they are not going to ask you write the functions of Supreme Court, etc. They are going to give a statement and they are going to tell write an answer on it. And in one of the exam they are told, critically examine is government by judiciary good for a democracy or something like that. Now there are two viewpoints here. One by Bhanu Pratap Mehta, who is highly critical of judiciary making laws in the country. Okay, he is criticizing it. He will tell, first of all, who are there to make laws. When you read Indian polity, you will understand how our political structure or how the constitution, because constitution is source for everything, how the governments are organized, how the state is organized, okay, what functions the center will do, state will do. There are three important organs for the state. One is the legislative, okay, that is the parliament, or in state we call as the state legislature. Now what is the function they do? Your MPs who are there, they make laws. Okay, what do you mean by a law? They will tell a direction. For example, they brought a law, okay, recently GST, a tax collection law. Under a law there will be direction, who collects what, etc. That is their duty, they will make the law. That is all their duty. They are not going, just they are going to make it, they are going to give it. Who is going to implement it? It is the executive. Now, who is the executive? It starts from the Prime Minister of the country, the Council of Ministers, the bureaucrats, the lower rung of the administration, everybody comes under the executive. So when many people we ask in, when I went to interview, one of the mock interviews, they told, okay, why you want to get into services? I told, sir, I want to make laws, I want to do policies. They told, you don't know the basics itself, because executive does not make laws, they only implement laws, what has been given to them. So that is the job of the executive. And third one, you have the judiciary. Now what is the role of the judiciary? They will keep an eye on the legislative and the executive, making sure are they doing according to what constitution has said. If there is no judiciary, tomorrow, like Subramania Swami will be always telling, Indira Gandhi wanted to declare herself as the Queen of India. So if any government, if anything they want to make a law, like recently they made Citizenship Amendment Act. Now again there is two different views. One view supports Citizenship Amendment Act, telling that there is a huge problem India has been facing because of the illegal migrants who have come into the country, and they are taking up the resources of the country. We are losing jobs, okay, it is creating friction, it is changing the dynamics. So because of that, the NRC, which is their National Register of Citizens, we need NRC. But on the other side, they are telling, we are afraid that in NRC that we might lose our citizenship, especially the minorities. They feel that if I don't prove my citizenship, I will be seen as an outsider. Now whether NRC conduction is according to the provisions of the constitution or not, who is going to decide? It is the judiciary. If there is a dispute tomorrow, who is going to take up? Who is going to interpret the constitution? Because constitution can be interpreted anywhere, right? Like if you see in our constitution as we read, you will see there is lot of contradictions. On one hand, the constitution says, Article 25, you have the right, the freedom of speech, right to freedom of religion, okay, propagate, profess, promote religion. The same constitution under Article 44 says that we need a uniform civil code. One hand, certain communities will tell, constitution is saying that we can uphold our religious practices. But the other hand, people will tell, no, the constitution says there should be only one law for one religion, for all the religions. Now who is right, who is wrong? Now who interprets what is what? Again, it is the Supreme Court. And recently they brought the Aadhaar bill. You have to give your data. Now before that, what had happened, there was one particular case called as the Puttu Swami case. This was a landmark case in India, because in Puttu Swami case they told right to privacy is a fundamental right. But the same Supreme Court also told Aadhaar is constitutionally valid. Now there is a conflict, right? One hand they are telling Aadhaar is valid, but in Aadhaar you have to give your data. There is right to privacy. Then again it went to court. Now what did Supreme Court tell? Supreme Court told, no, right to privacy is a fundamental right, but you have to understand no fundamental right in India is an absolute right. There can be reasonable restrictions imposed on them. The point, reasonable restrictions, who is going to see what is that restriction reasonable or not? It is judiciary. If you tell legislative is going to decide, the government becomes all powerful, then okay, we are the reason, we are going to tell, you don't talk from today. You can't talk. What you will do then? You go to court, you will put a writ, see my fundamental right is being taken away, so you have to protect me. That is the role of judiciary. So what Bhanu Pratap Mehta told, judiciary should only do this. judiciary should not go into law making, they should not go into the sphere of executive. Now why did he tell like that? Why that question came in the exam was that that particular year Supreme Court had taken a decision. They told all the alcohol shops 100 meters from a highway is banned. Now here, according to Bhanu Pratap Mehta, this is judicial overreach, because judiciary does not have the power to take executive decisions. Now who gives a bar license? It is the government, state government, government of Karnataka or government of Tamil Nadu. Now they would have given bar license, so many people will be dependent on that bar for working. And you know why Supreme Court took that decision was that there was a report which said that, you know, because too much accidents are happening on highways because of the alcohol centers. Now he was critical of that. How did the Supreme Court know how many accidents happen? Because they have not given any data for that. And now who will be responsible for those who lost the jobs because of you closed down the bars? And alcohol is one of the important sources of revenue for the government. Now how the government will cover the losses because the alcohol shops are closed? That was his viewpoint. He is telling that, you know, he is being critical of judiciary taking away the functions of the executive and the legislative. But on the other hand, you have Bhikkhu Parekh, he is one more political scholar. He has a different view. He will tell whatever said. If judiciary had not taken up the role of legislative and executive, India would have become a banana republic. Means the legislative would have become so powerful that people or democracy would have not survived in India. And he is the example of the famous Keshavananda Bharati case. You have to know, because recently Keshavananda Bharati passed away. Okay, that is why it is a very important topic for the exam, both political science and your GS paper 2. And Keshavananda Bharati case, it's one of the, you can say, it is one of the landmark cases, you know, in our political journey or, you know, constitutional journey. Because for the very first time Supreme Court innovated something which is not there in the constitution, and they told, look, you cannot make a law which violates the basic structure of the Indian constitution. The problem again here is that they have not defined what is basic structure. There is no definition of basic structure in your constitution or anywhere. Then you can ask, sir, then who decides what is basic structure? The answer is judiciary itself decides what is basic structure. In every case they will tell, okay, this is basic structure, you cannot touch. So he will tell, because judiciary did this, they were able to contain, you know, the power of the legislative. And in many cases, for example, like when 2G scam happened, okay, the Supreme Court who came and took the executive decisions. And when, you know, there was this particular case, Vishaka case, okay, the famous Vishaka guidelines, that was related to, you know, a woman who was brutally raped. Okay, and you know, that time the court felt that the government or the legislative had not done much enough to protect the women at working places. So they took the initiative and they directed the government, you know, these are so guidelines which you have to implement. Only then the government brought a law. So he will tell, no, judiciary can sometimes take up the law, but however, there is a very, you know, very narrow margin between what is judicial activism and judicial overreach. Okay. There are certain times judicial overreach, means judiciary unnecessarily has gone into the field. When they entered the jurisdiction of BCCI and they told Sunil Gavaskar has to be made the head of it. Many questions like why, who told judiciary to appoint him, or what rights do they have? Okay. And the other point is that when there are 3 crore pending cases in India, okay, there are 3 crore pending cases in India, if judiciary works from today 24/7 all time, how can you think, you know, you resolve the case like 24/7? If judiciary works also, the case won't be resolved. So when you have so much backlog work to do, but if you go and do now the legislative work, executive work, justice delayed is justice denied. Got the point? So these are the things which will be reading here from judiciary. We won't be only reading about, that is a basic thing which you have to know, which will be reading, and that will be also done in your GS classes, that will be also done in political science classes, that, you know, what is the structure of judiciary in India, like, you know, who appoints Supreme Court judge, you know, what is the number of Supreme Court judge. But what I am trying to say is that in political science we are not so much concerned about, you know, what is the number of current judges in Supreme Court, who appoints the Supreme Court judge. These are all prelims part. Okay. But the mains part, because this is prelims is not there, political science is there not for prelims, it is only for mains. So mains we are more concerned about working of judiciary. what are the problems in judiciary. Okay, today there is a report which says that after police, the second most corrupt institution in India is judiciary. Got the point? And what does the second ARC report say? What does the Law Commission say? How to improve the functioning of judiciary. So we are more interested in these parts. So this is very easy for us. We are not able, don't need to remember so many facts or names. It's just about analysis. We have to know what is the function of judiciary. So for this, that's why I told, please refer the editorial page, okay, of Hindu and Indian Express based on what is there, not all the articles. Okay, recently there was this women movement in India. What is that? I forgot the name. Me Too movement. Okay, so you have a topic called as women movements in India. So Me Too movement comes under that. So you will have 2-3 scholars who have written about Me Too movement. Just read about, know what is their viewpoint. That's it. Yeah.
Judicial independence, right?
Hmm.
It is coming more.
Yeah.
So actually, Supreme Court has struck down the NJSC before.
Yeah.
And now they are asking like in-house committee is inquiring on the judges.
Hmm.
So like how can should we support, like how can it be done? Like,
See, you can be critical of the judiciary there. Okay. For example, one of the major criticism against NJAC is that I think it was Yogendra Yadav who says India is a special case. It is only in India where judges appoint themselves.
collegium.
Yeah. But the problem is that is where Bhanu Pratap Mehta was also critical. You know, they told NJAC is only unconstitutional. There are issues with NJAC, no doubt that it might give certain powers to the executive. But again, there are two views. One view says that yes, there is problem with the current collegium system, but let us repair it. The solution is not bringing a new body where the executive will have a say in appointment of the judges. Now they'll tell that is a bigger problem. That creates a bigger problem. How? Tomorrow, you are the government. You have the power to appoint the judges. Now you can see that a judge is at the end of his tenure. Now, or some other person who is a lawyer of you can push him and make him a judge, or after becoming a judge you can tell him, I'll give you some post-retirement benefits, right? One of the reasons why in India they don't want to do is that if the judiciary aligns with the executive, then it's a disaster, right? Now if judiciary tells whatever the government is doing is correct, then who is going to guard the voice? So your answer should bring all the viewpoints there. What is the problem with collegium system? Does NJAC is the solution for collegium system? If not, okay, how can we better the collegium system? Many scholars are of the view, even ex-Supreme Court judges are of the view is that we don't need an NJAC. We admit that there is lack of transparency, there is lack of accountability within the collegium system. But there are different processes where we can better the collegium system. But for them, NJAC is a very radical solution and it can have a very disastrous effect. That is why the Supreme Court struck down the NJAC. That's the thing. But there is a counter view. They are telling instead of striking down NJAC, you could have removed those provisions in NJAC which gave the power to the executive. Got the point? So that's why I told there is no one way answer here. Okay, it's all about bringing different viewpoints. Then you can take a call. See, for me, I might tell NJAC is a better solution for me. I'll bring arguments for that. You might feel no, collegium system is only better, but it needs slight improvement. You have to bring arguments for that. So it doesn't mean which is right or wrong. It's about, that's what I told. When we studied Western political thought, I told one of the core idea of Western political thought is reasoning. Got the point? You have to be a best defender of your points. You have to bring the arguments for your points, but at the same time show the other side of the points. So you'll read something called as dialectics when we read Plato, Socrates. Dialectics is a technique where we'll arrive at something through dialogues. Now he and me, he'll tell his viewpoint, I'll tell my viewpoint, we'll debate with each other, okay. And finally after debating, okay, I'll tell one argument, you can call it as thesis, he'll tell one more argument, you can call it as antithesis because it is against that argument. When both arguments mix together, the conclusion which come to, which called as synthesis, it will be always a better product than the previous thing. Got the point? So in your answer should be also process of dialectics where you bring two arguments and you bring out your solution for that. If you feel there is a problem with it, recommend the solutions for it. That's the. Yeah, so any other doubt here? If anybody has any doubt. So here this is wholly about your Lakshmikant. Fadia and Fadia you can refer for reference book. It is not like mandatory you have to read end to end, selective chapters. And in editorial pages you have to read Hindu and Indian Express. Okay. If you don't have access to Indian Express, because this is not New Indian Express, many of those are based in Bangalore will get confused with New Indian Express. We don't get Indian Express in Bangalore. You have to subscribe online. Okay. So yeah, Telegram, you will get anywhere free copies. Just try to go through the views. It is not mandatory that every day you sit and study. If you go in on their website also, if you go to Indian Express website, you have list of scholars they will give. You go there and you select 2-3 scholars who are relevant to the topic, like Zoya Hassan. She mainly speaks about secularism, okay, her viewpoints. Yogendra Yadav, he mainly speaks about elections in India, electioneering in India. Banu Pratap Mehta, Bhikkhu Parekh, they speak on judiciary, they speak on democracy. Got the point? So here you have to know their names. So suddenly when there is a democracy question, for me I'll know who to quote, what to quote. Got the point? That you will get used as you read and read and read. You will get used to it. You will get instilled. So this is mainly about the part B of your political paper 1. So this is holistically the first paper. So that's why I told it's pretty easy if you know how to approach, how to study, what to read, what not to read. Don't worry about current affairs or dynamic part initial stage. First become strong with the concepts. Know the concepts very well. If you are very good with the concepts, automatically you will become good with connecting with the current events. And as I told, printed material will be provided for most part of the syllabus, but few parts where there is no printed material you can refer the books or you can listen to the class, you can take down the points which are important. But again I told, for dynamic part, that is why I am telling, if you want to score more in exam, if you want to be a topper, if you want to score 330, 340, 325, because we have kept this what is a slogan called as target 350, okay. It is difficult but not impossible, but it requires effort from your end also, okay. So like many people will think, I'll attend class, once I attend class, I'll know everything. That's what I told. That's why I'll tell, in UPSC, you take political science or general studies, etc. Guidance or coaching will be helping you only up to 20 to 30%. That is all the coaching or a guidance can make an impact. But rest 70% is that how you make use of the guidance, how you sit and study. There is no alternative to that. Like if one of the first batches which I conducted in a different place, one of the students came and asked me, sir, she listened to the whole class. She said, no sir, you tell me 2 books where I have to complete this verse. I told, yeah, first book is quit, second book is UPSC, quit UPSC. That's the only 2 books. Because you can't, you see, that will be a bluff if I say, there is only 2 materials, you read this material, it will come from that, you will pass the exam. I will be literally bluffing. Even if you study a standard notes or like Shubhra Ranjan notes, there are 6 booklets. 6, 250 or 150 pages or 200 pages, 6 booklets. Got the point? So there is nothing called 2 books. This is not only, sir, then what about Anthro? Is there only 1 book? No. Every optional, there will be 3 or books you have to refer. That's what I told. 2 books can be referred if you are aiming to score 250. Anytime you read 2 books, you know the syllabus, you go well, Aram se you will score 250 if you write well in the exam. But if you want to cross the 300 mark, the effort will come from your side, keeping a reference. But again I told, where students, most of the students will be misled or they will get confused is that they will see Fadia and Fadia book, 400 pages. They will tell, done, I will take 1 year to read this book. But in reality, in these 400 pages for the exam, hardly 50 to 70 pages will be useful. Got the point? That I will tell as we class for which page to read, what not to read. Okay. So clarity on paper 1, what needs to be done, what are your sources and how we will be going about in the class. Now let us come to your second paper. Paper 2. Now this is a very interesting part. If anybody likes international relations, I think this is their area. But for some they will tell you, sir, there is so much happening in international relations. Can I remember so many things, sir? Don't worry, this is not something they are going to ask, recently where G20 summit was held, recently which two countries are fighting. They are not going to ask that, or they are going to ask India shares border with how many countries. These are all not part of the syllabus, or they are not going to be asked. But they are going to ask you, okay, first and foremost, international relations. When you read, it is not just we are blindly reading, sir, are India Pakistan friends, are India China enemies? No, we can't tell that, are they friends or they enemies. To understand the relation between these countries, we have to study theories. Okay, you have a lot of theories: realism, liberalism, functionalism, complex interdependence. Okay, many times we will tell India-China relations can be defined in terms of complex interdependence. There is an element of interdependence, but it is complex. See, on one hand, recently India and China were on a verge of a war with respect to what happened in Galwan Valley. Okay, you can see there was mobilization of the forces along the border, and then you can see the economic warfare started. India started to ban the Chinese products or Chinese apps, what we say. But on the other hand, you can see both countries are participating in the SCO summit, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, if you look at India-China relationship, it's not very easy to say China is our enemy or USA is our friend. That is a very simplistic understanding of international relations, a layman understanding of international. But you, as a student of political science, you have to define these relations in terms of the theories which you read. Complex interdependence means, yes, it's true that we do have our differences with China. Not from now, from the beginning. In 1962, we have fought a war with China. And if you see, China recently opposed India's entry into nuclear suppliers groups. They told we are not going to agree for India's entry. And you can see there is also friction happening between the two countries in South China Sea. Okay, now India is telling it's not your ocean. It is a global common. Every country has the right to use that. But China is claiming through something called as 9-dash line. That will, don't worry now about these terms once we start international relations. Okay, anyway, I mentioned about 9-dash line. It is nothing but an imaginary line on the Chinese map. Okay, it is in the form of 9 dashes. Okay, they are claiming 70 to 80% of the South China Sea belongs to them. They are constructing artificial highlands today. They are with dispute with most of the Southeast Asian countries over this thing. Now, why should we considered? Something happens in South China Sea, sir? Why should we considered? Why concerned? We have to be concerned, because if we want to trade with Southeast Asia, I have to use South China Sea, or if I have to go to Far East, I have to use South China Sea. There is a lot of oil resources in South China Sea, which is useful for us also. So, when China is trying to do this, it is naturally brings it in conflict with us. And similarly, China is not sitting quietly. With growth of their economic power, it is translating into political power and military power. You can see they are building bases surrounding India, and few of the scholars call it a string of pearls. Okay, means if you look at the Indian map, today China has acquired a port in Sri Lanka that is called as the Hambantota port. They have acquired a port in Pakistan that is called as the Gwadar port. They have also got a port in Bangladesh, Chittagong port. They have got a port in Myanmar. So when you look at the map, if you look at the Indian map, I'm sorry, bad with the map drawing. That's why usually I bring my PPTs to show maps. But you should be good in map drawing because you can use it in the exam. You can see here is Pakistan, you have Gwadar port. Here is Sri Lanka, or here I don't know where, here it comes. Okay, you have the Hambantota port. And here you have Bangladesh, they have a port. And in Myanmar, they have a port. If you connect the dots, it looks like a string of pearls. Now, sir, then why should we worried for they are building a port? See, currently they are telling it is a commercial port, but there are fears among our strategic experts that tomorrow they might build it into naval or military ports. And once if they are able to do it, you can see they have access to attack India from all sides. And second, only if you think there is only one ocean in the world which is named after a country, that is the Indian Ocean. And if we do not have our dominance or our influence in the Indian Ocean continues to decline, it is a security threat. It is also questions are as a growing power that do not we have the capacity to influence our neighboring countries. So these are the things which have created tensions between India and China. So what do we do, sir? Shall we go with war with China, or like two friends fight, let us not talk to them? No, international relations are not like that. We have to talk with them. As Atal Bihari Vajpayee once famously said, we can choose our friends but not our neighbors. We have to learn to live with our neighbors. So that is why you can see these are the disputes which are there with India, with China, but at the same time India shares a very cordial relationship with China when it comes to economics, because one of the largest trading partners with India is China. Our bilateral trade is $80 billion, but however it is more in favor of China. You look at both India and China are developing countries. Okay, China is also not a developed country, it's a developing country. Both have common interest when it comes to climate change. Okay, we might have common interest with America when it comes to South China Sea or string of pearls, but we have common interest with China when it comes to economics. Both India and China oppose the role of World Bank and IMF. Okay, that we will explain when we do IMF and World Bank. You will come to know why we oppose it. Got the point? And both India and China have started a bank called as the New Development Bank as a part of BRICS. Then there is also one more bank called as Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, started by China, and India is the second largest shareholder in that bank, and that is a Chinese bank, and you can see they have given the highest loans to India. Okay, there are converging economic interest, cultural interest. So that is why we told the relationship is complex interdependence. So how can you know that how to define what? For that you need to read part A. Here part A largely comprises of two things. One is the comparative politics. So as the name itself suggests, it is about comparison. Comparing what? We compare how is the state in developing countries, how does the state function in the developed world. How does the political party system functions in developing countries, how does a political party system in the developed world. How does social movements happen in developing countries and how does social movement happen in the developed world. Okay, it is a comparison of the East and the West. Okay, that is why it is called as comparative politics. Under comparative politics, there are different approaches to study and compare. Okay, you have political economic approach, political sociological approach. Okay, you have different methods where we compare. So here there is no book for it. You can refer the IGNO material if needed, or the printed notes which will be provided for this will be sufficient enough. Okay, you do not need to read any other source for this. But again, when you are reading newspaper, you have to just keep eye on few examples. Okay, like for example, you can see if you look at the LGBT movement, the lesbian, gay, transgender movement, they are more stronger in Western countries. You have to know why. At the point. And when you observe the political system, okay, in the West, you take America and India. Like we have to know what is the difference, how political parties function here and how political parties function there. Okay, we need to have a comparative thing. So if you take in America, you have two-party dominant system, that is the Republicans and the Democrats. But if you take country like India, we have a different political system. We don't have a regular pattern. It has been kept changing. So if you saw from 1947 to 1960s, what Rajni Kothari says that we had a dominant party system or a Congress system. Why he tells is a Congress system is that you had Congress both at the center as well as the state. Excuse me, I have to take one important call. Yeah, sorry, I had to take that call. Yeah. So you will be comparing, okay, single party dominant system, okay, which was there with a Congress system which was there. Now what was the characteristic of this system? You see, Congress party was at the center, means they were ruling at the center. In almost all the states, or in all the states, you had Congress party itself. Chief ministers were from Congress, prime minister was also from Congress. Now we have to study that structure. How did it impact federalism in India? How did it impact the functioning of the Prime Minister? This Fadia book has one interesting quote. They tell during Congress system, you had if Jawaharlal Nehru, he shouted from Delhi, the chief ministers in South India would shiver, okay, because he was from the same party. Like today, if Modi shouts from Delhi, Yadurappa will shiver. But when we entered the era of coalition politics in 2000s, they told things change now. If Karunanidhi sneezed in Chennai, it was Manmohan Singh who caught cold in Delhi. Okay, that was the how the role of the Prime Minister. You can use these quotes in your answers; they'll give you more marks. So basically, here we'll be comparing, okay, how in India it works, okay. Not only India, basically developing countries, how the political parties behave, and you have certain scholars who define, they brought theories how the party structure is aligned. So we'll get notes for it. You don't need to worry about it. You just have to read that. And along with comparative politics, you have international relation, or what you can tell, politics. Okay, this is like the theory of your part A, the political theory, right? You have international relations theory, international politics theory. Means here you will be reading about, again, ideologies. I told the same ideologies in part A, you will be reading again Marxism, realism, liberalism, then you have postmodernism, feminism, same thing, same ideologies, but this will be from an international perspective. And then you will be reading about core concepts such as national interest. Okay, it's very easy to tell, right? What is national interest? What is nation's interest is national? No. We will try to read about it. What is national interest? Which scholar has defined what is national interest? There are different types of national interest. There are constant interests. There are variable interests. Got the point? Certain core concepts which are there. Then what is balance of power? Okay, you have different theories there. Okay, balance of power is a product of realism. Okay. Then you have something called as functionalism. If you take European Union, which my friend was talking about, European Union is a product of functionalism. Means all the countries, European countries, they have come together, they formed a larger block, and they have assigned certain functions to a higher body. Okay, you have see European Union, they have their own parliament. Got the point? So we will be reading about different theories part of it. Okay, these will be purely theories which you have to know. What is national interest? What is balance of power? Okay. Then you will be reading about Cold War, a bit of world history. That's what I told your GS paper 1. What is Cold War? Why did Cold War happen? What are the important characteristics of Cold War? How did Cold War have an impact on Indian foreign policy? And when did Cold War end? And is there a new Cold War which is happening? This part will be one. Then we will be reading about non-aligned movement. See, this is also same repetition. You will read non-aligned movement at 3 places. You have non-aligned movement here, then again you have non-aligned movement in India, then you have again non-aligned movement in present context. Repetition. There is nothing you have to read same thing. Once you read, that will apply for 3 topics. For the point. Then you will be reading about, you read about environmental movements in paper 1, part B. Again you will be reading here environmental movement at the global level. Okay, your Fridays for Future, global climate change negotiations. Recently America, Donald Trump pulled out of Paris climate change agreement. Okay, we will be reading about this. And lastly we will be reading about international economy. In the sense you will be not reading core economic concepts. Here we will be reading about how does World Bank function, how does IMF function, why India and China, as I told, why they are critical of the IMF functioning. Okay, does IMF really function in the interest of the developing countries? One of my professor was there, Hargopal. He is highly famous in Andhra Pradesh. Those who are from Andhra will know him. He was one of the best professors I came across in National Law School. So he used to tell me, tell the class. He used to give instances to make us understand. Like I used to ask him, sir, like why IMF? What's the problem with IMF? He used to tell, look, you think you have a daughter, and you want to get her married. Now you need money to get her married for the marriage expenses. Now you will find a money lender. That is the IMF. You will go and you will tell, No, I need money, but you need to get my daughter married. Money little, no, you don't worry, I'll give you. You ask, how much do you need? Tell 10 lakhs. Tell, no, you take 15 lakhs. Enjoy. So you will think maybe they are offering, higher interest rate. Or they'll tell, no, it's normal. What is market? You give me 1% interest below the market rate. You are full happy, you are getting more money and they are charging less interest rate. You will tell, okay, fine, we will sign this thing and taking money. You will tell, okay, before you go, one condition. You will tell, what is the condition? We will choose the husband for your daughter. Okay, that is what IMF does, conditional loans. They will give you loans on certain conditions. And those conditions will be set in such a way the Americans, the European companies will benefit out of it. So that has a relation to what we discussed when India liberalized LPG reforms was brought. See, that's why I told UPSC is an interconnected subject. You can't tell, sir, I'll read economy, I'll read political economy, how politics is related to economics, what Marx tells. What Marx tells? He will tell everything is decided based on economics. Economics is the basis, he will tell it's the base, all rest is the superstructure. If you look at the caste system in India, there are two ways of seeing it. Now, if you look at the caste system, one way they will tell, you are born in that particular caste and you have to do that role. But the other way role, if you look from a Marxist perspective, the economic base was like that, you needed certain people to do this job, you needed certain people to do that job. That is how it developed into a caste. What's the point? If you link economy to it, you need certain people to do certain jobs. You will be reading in Plato also. When Plato does, he divides the society into 3 classes and he will tell each class has to do the same work. You will understand that once you read Plato. So like this, we will be reading about IMF and World Bank. But see, here the problem will be literature is wide. Okay, you have 100 articles on IMF and World Bank. This is where students will get confused. They will try to look at the questions. They will tell, sir, this came in some international seminar, this topic was there, so how can we read all? You don't worry, the UPSC is never going to ask you something from a research paper or research scholar. This exam is all about jack of all, master of none. Okay, IAS is a generalist service. But the point, you are not a specialist, you are a generalist. You can be a doctor, you will be an administering some engineering department. You will be an engineer, but you will be looking after the health department. So they don't need any specialist, they don't need any rocket scientist, but they need just well thought candidates. So that's why I told here, you don't need to do a research on IMF and World Bank, you don't need to go into depth. I will read these notes or printed notes which are provided, understand the idea. When any article comes, try to incorporate 1 or 2 points, you are done. And there are 2-3 scholars, okay, some scholars who will defend IMF, some scholars who are critical of IMF. I don't know, whole political science is about 2 viewpoints. You have to learn these viewpoints very well, and you have to know when to use them in the exam, at what context. So this holistically covers your part A, and you have UN, United Nations Organization, one chapter you have. Again here you will be reading about on what context UN was formed, why League of Nations failed, okay. And this is the 75th anniversary of United Nations, so it's a very important topic from the exam point of view. They can ask you a question, why again it is important? See, that's why I told why you have to be updated with current affairs, is that it will give you the clarity of where the question will come. India also recently became the non-permanent member for the UN Security Council for the 8th time, or 8th or 9th, I am not sure, I think 8th time. So that is why you can expect a question from UN Security Council. Exactly, UN reforms. And if you broadly see what question they can ask, they won't ask anything. They will ask, okay, they will give a statement telling that UN has been successful over the years. Now you have to critically analyze. You will tell, okay, UN has done certain good work. It has prevented a 3rd World War. It has provided a platform for countries to discuss important issues. It has taken up many gender issues. It has promoted. But at the same time, there are problems with UN. What is the problems with UN? One scholar, he will tell UN itself is not democratic. They'll tell it's not democratic. Why? Means all countries don't have equal weightage. Only there are 5 countries which have veto power. And UN, it doesn't have the capacity to take on powerful countries. It only takes on the smaller countries. Yeah, it failed to prevent the Cold War. And when US invaded Iraq, there was no sanctions from UN, they did unilateral invasion, defying the UN advice. That's what they'll know. They'll only take on the weaker countries, but they don't have the capacity to face the stronger countries. But again, as I told you, would have read theories, right? Realism, liberalism. You have to analyze from those perspectives, okay, about functioning of UN. A realist will tell UN is useless. Okay, when you read realism as an idea, realism believes, that there cannot be peace. The only way to establish peace is that two countries should be, balance of power should be there. Both countries should be equally armed. Arms race you can't. Arms race they'll tell it's good. When arms race starts, the countries, they'll be kept in check, and they'll tell UN and all it is useless as a platform. Liberals has the other view. They'll tell no, UN has usefulness. UN has created peace in the world. It has promoted trade between the countries. Got the point? You have to know how to apply the theory. So that's why I told this subject is highly interconnected. There is nothing, you will feel it is very vast, but once you start reading it, right, it is a repetition of the same thing again and again and again. So that's why I told it's a myth that some people or some things that students, the moment they enter the UPSC field, first thing they'll see, okay, let's see which optional has scored more toppers last time. Then she'll see, let me see the size of the syllabus, which has shorter syllabus, let me go for that. Then they'll see, okay, which is more static, okay, that we can read the same thing and write. So there is nothing like static or dynamic, or it all depends upon your perception of the option. You have to know very well now what to write there and what to read. So this is holistically about part A, and there is one standard book, textbook, which I would recommend. See this, if you want to buy hard copy, you can buy, because it's 2,700 rupees hard copy, okay. But I will be sharing the soft copy. I have the soft copy. Once the Telegram group is formed, I will share the soft copy there. But again, this is like Fadia and Fadia. It's a reference book. You don't need to go from end to end. But why this book is important is that it is a foreign author book, Andrew A. Hood, Global Politics. It gives you very good examples and very good insights into the international theories. Okay, that's why a highly recommended book that you have to read. Andrew Haywood, Global Politics. Okay, got it? Andrew Haywood, Global Politics. So if you read this much, that's more than enough for your part A of political science. Now part B of political science, this is the most dynamic element in the subject, in the sense there is no book for this, there is no single book for this, part B. What is part B? This is the Indian foreign policy. Or we can also tell India and the world. So they have specified here which are the countries you have to know. They have told India and major powers, that is China, European Union, USA, Japan, Israel, okay. And then you have to know about important regions, India and West Asia, India and Central Asia, India and Latin America, India and Africa. Africa we don't go into specifically reading all the countries, Africa as a whole. And UPSC was also sensible enough to know that you can't read all the countries in the world, they have specified minimum number of sources. For this one part, notes will be provided, but again the notes will be more of what has happened till now. Here we will be providing you certain articles to study, or we will teach you how to study this part. Here you have to refer to few websites such as IDSA, Diplomat, and you have one more website which is called pardon me, what is it? ODF, okay, ORF. Yeah, ORF. So you can refer this website, but now how do I read, sir? Do I need to follow these websites every day? No. Okay, what you have to do is that, see, now India, China, in the notes you will have the basics, okay, what is the historical thing, and like some people will suggest you can read David Malone, Shashi Tharoor's Pax Indica, but see, don't it's not worth investing so much time on these books. So what I told in the notes only, the important elements what are there in Pax Indica or an introduction part, it will be given for you in the notes. You have to just know the viewpoint. But only thing you have to update yourself is that now Galwan Valley happened, right? If you read Hindu newspaper, like every third day or the fourth day there is an article. Okay, you read the article. If you feel this is something unique viewpoint, just add on to your notes. You don't need to read the whole article. Now one person would have told, you know, India should join the Quad, or India should bring Australia into the Quad, okay, to counter China. The other person would tell, by bringing Australia into Quad, you know, India is completely aligning with the Americans, which is against Chinese view. So know who told what, the counter views. That is all. You need to just update. Like there was one question on Israel in 2000, I think 15 or 16 they had asked. See, why they had asked on Israel that year was because there was a drastic change in India's policy towards Israel. So many of you, I don't know whether you will be aware or not, but you will know as you read, Prime Minister Modi became the first ever Indian Prime Minister to set foot on Israel. He was the first Prime Minister to visit Israel. No Indian Prime Minister had visited Israel till today. There is a reason to it. You have to look back into what happened with Israel and Palestine and why then the Indian government preferred to, you know, sideline Israel. So that's a history that you'll know, like, you know, Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Indian Prime Minister, and when India got its independence, the India was led by the Indian National Congress, and the ideology of the Indian National Congress was that point of time was secularism. The country had just, you know, broken away, Pakistan had broken away based on religious grounds, and at that point of time there were three reasons. One, Gandhi and Nehru felt that morally Palestine was correct, because it was their land, Jews had come and settled there, and over a period of time they had taken away their land. So that is morally there is justice on the side of the Arab people or the Palestinians. So India has to side with Palestine. Second reason was that Indian National Congress, if you look at their vote bank, Muslim constitutes a very important vote bank for the Congress. So there was this policy called as Arab appeasement policy. Two reasons they wanted to appease the Arab countries. One, India was highly dependent on oil at that point of time from the Arab countries, and anything if you do close relations with Israel will mess up India's relation with the Arab countries, and it will have an economic consequence on us. One reason was that. The second reason was that domestically politics, you know, the Muslims won't go to the Congress if they had sided with Israel. So you can see this policy continued for a very long period of time, but under Rajiv Gandhi the policy changed a bit. Now Rajiv Gandhi was a bit pragmatic. He told, okay, look, we have pursued Arab appeasement policy, but it has not yielded results to us. Today many Arab countries themselves have relation with Israel, so how logical it is for us to ignore Israel. Second, only we have utility from Israel. Israel is a technologically very superior country. They will meet our defense needs, our agricultural needs, dry land agricultural technologies. So what he did was that he allowed Israel not to open an embassy but a small office in Mumbai. Okay, that was the very first time that India opened up to Israel. Then you can see the relationship started to grow in 1990s under Narasimha Rao. Then you had under Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now the NDA government came to power. Now under NDA government again, you know, the India warmed up to Israel for two reasons. One, the BJP or the NDA, their support base is different. They are least bothered about the minority votes. They are a Hindu party or a party based on Hindutva. Okay. And you can see Israel is also, in Israel the political parties which are there, they are also nationalist parties, they are based on the Zionism. Okay. So there is an ideological confluence which happened there, but still Atal Bihari Vajpayee, still at that point of time also, because it was a coalition government, he did not want to, you know, get too close to Israel. That is why even he did not visit Israel, he kept his distance, and we call the policy of hyphenation. Hyphenation means if you go to Israel, you have to go to Palestine. If you give Israel something, you have to give to Palestine. Got the point? Like there are two of your friends who are fighting it between, and you are common between them, you have to satisfy both. But under Narendra Modi government, now things have radically changed. One, he made a statement by becoming the first Prime Minister to visit Israel. So what is the indication of this policy? It means India announced to the world that we have dehyphenated the relation between Israel and Palestine. What does that mean? it means we are not going to link the Palestine issue with our relations with Israel. Our relations with Israel will happen as normal. We are going to deal with Palestine also separately, but we are not going to link the Palestine issue with whatever happens with Israel. And secondly, you can see for the very first time, all these years India had voted against Israel in UN Security Council or UN. For the very first time in 2015 and 16, India abstained from voting. They didn't go to vote only. So many tell this was an indication. That is why C. Raja Mohan, he coined a very beautiful quote. He told, all these years India had treated Israel as a mistress, but for the first time it has openly acknowledged as the wife. Means all these years the relation between the two was happening back channels. Like with the point, right, mistress means somebody whom you have, you have an not open relationship. But now India has openly declared that we are going to have an established relation with Israel. Now that we are going to study why the policy changed. Is it because of change in domestic politics, because we have a majority Hindutva party which has come to power, or is it because of the dynamics of West Asia has changed today? These are the interesting elements which will go into it. So these are all part of your current affairs. This will be there in your GS IR part also. It's no different. So that's why I told this is easy in a way, but also dynamic in a way that things can change pretty radically. So all you have to do is that read newspaper, nothing else is required. But how to write answers in the printed notes, it will be given to you. So if you get that hold of approach, nothing else is required. Just know the basics. The foundation will be taught, India-US relations, what are the periods, how it has changed. But update yourself with the current part, what is happening presently. So this is the whole. So that's why I told, read websites such as IDSA, Diplomat and ORF. Okay. If you ask me, sir, I'm pretty new, sir, like polity is something very new to me. So can you tell me even more basic what I can start? You can start with your NCERT books. See, many people what they do is they ignore NCERT. Okay, they tell, it's a school book. Why do I need it? But you won't understand the importance of NCERT until you know how to read it. So read NCERT books of Polity, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. The 12th book, the Contemporary Global Politics, it gives you a very good idea of part A of political science. Got the point? So these are the sources which we will be referring as part of our preparation, and these are the elements which we will be looking into as part of your syllabus. And let me know whether I was too quick or too slow, like you will be able to understand what I was able to say, because we have to communicate with each other. If you have to get into a momentum, I have to understand what you understanding. And even for those who are online, they can anytime leave a message. Once the Telegram group is formed, you can just communicate there. Okay, this part I didn't understand. So I'll be happy to help you out. So as I told, the whole course, what I want to do is not from a subject perspective, it is mainly from an exam point of view. My goal is not to make you a political science expert, but make you score decent marks in the optional subject. So if you have any doubt, you can ask now. Yeah. For that, material will be provided. But if you want some book source, that's what I told, Shubhrata Mukherjee, which is there, you can refer that, but it's too vast. Okay, but I will be sending the soft copy of the printed notes, where I would have given from an exam point of view what is required. So that I will give you within 10 days once I complete the thinkers. And you can take down the class notes, like whatever you feel is important. That's it.
Will it be in the form of lecture notes, or will you be dictating any part of it?
No, it will be in a form of a printed notes, it will be already printed. While going through, no, it won't be in kind of lecture notes, but you can take down the core ideas which I will tell. Like for example, now tomorrow we will be starting with the features of the ancient Greek thought. So if you tell me anywhere that you want to take down, I will tell the sentence slowly. See, because what happens with lecturing notes is that you need minimum of 5 to 6 months to take the classes. Like if you want completely dictated notes, that will take around 5 to 6 months. But what you can do is that you can take a short notes of it when I dictate in the class, but this I will be giving a printout of it to everybody once this chapter is over.
Soft copy will be sent, or will the hard copy be sent?
For this, I think the hard copy will be sent, or we can do a soft copy of this also and send. There is no problem with it. Yeah, apart from that, So you're able to understand, or you have to make few changes, you can let me know. So I'll be flexible enough to yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that will be also good thing what he said, because randomly if I introduce a concept and if you have no idea, it will be very difficult to follow. So as I told, tomorrow we'll be starting with what is political thought. Okay, what is the difference between a thought and a theory? Then we'll go into the salient features of the ancient Greek thought. Okay, Greek thought means it's a summary of Plato and Aristotle in general what their thought is about. Then we'll go into Plato. So basically tomorrow we might touch upon Plato, it depends upon how the class go, but these are the elements which we'll be doing in tomorrow's class. The features of ancient Greek thought, what is political thought, what is political science, because see, it's very interesting, right? It is political science, but there is nothing scientific here. In the sense, it's not science like you read geography or something like that. This science is about learning about the art of government, the art of state. There is one fundamental difference between philosophy and science. In science, there is logic. It can be verified. For example, if I tell 2 plus 2 is 4, it is logic, right? It can be verified. But in philosophy, you can't verify. Now Plato told democracy is bad. But Woodrow Wilson will say democracy is the best form of government until you have an alternative to it. Who is right, who is wrong? That is philosophy. Philosophy cannot be verified. It cannot be, tell exactly one thing. It's in continuum. You cannot tell it is true or false. You can tell it is good or bad. Good or bad depends upon our perspective. Got the point? Now he might tell classes are good. You might feel the classes are not so good. How do you verify it? There is no verification. That will always remain his perspective. It always remains your perspective. But if I tell the classes is for 36 hours, you can verify it. It is 36 hours. So that's the difference between science and philosophy. So in Greek political thought, it's mainly political philosophy what we will be reading about. But as we move on, then we'll enter political science. Then you will be able to differentiate between what is political philosophy, what is political science, why did science came into this stream of politics, because you will go through something called behavioralism. Okay, they'll bring focus upon scientific methodologies. So this is the thing. So tomorrow we'll be touching upon what is political thought, what is a political theory, what are the salient features of the Greek political thought. Then we'll touch upon Plato. But once we touch upon Plato, we have to also look into Socrates, because Socrates had a great impact on Plato. But we won't be reading Socrates in detail, we'll be only reading about his theory of knowledge. He'll tell knowledge is very important virtue of a man. So why he tells like that, why a person should have knowledge and how it influenced Plato. Then we'll go into theories of Plato. So that will be the agenda of tomorrow's class. So as I told, your classes will be Monday to Friday. So it will vary on between 2 hours to 2.5 hours and 5 days a week. And weekend, that's what I told. Now in initial days I won't give you any questions to write upon, but I'll just ask you like few things, go through the previous year question papers or what questions has been done. Then as slowly we'll introduce your answer writing program. So that's the thing.
What is this answer writing program?
Yeah, answer writing program is that I'll give you 1 or 2 answers on a weekend to write and come. And when you come back, I will give you the structure of the answer. I'll discuss what you should have written. Okay.
But it will not be in a form of a test.
No. See, when I want to test is that when you acquired all the necessary skills, I want to test whether you have the skill or not. But in initial stage only, what is going to happen is that I will give you one question, you will write whatever comes to your mind. That won't develop. I want you to understand the art of answer writing. Okay,
But
so
test is a part of this program.
yeah, test is part of the program. Means like maybe after this in the second month, we will be starting. Once we complete the part A, you will have a test on part A. Once we complete part B, you will have test on part B. For the point. But initial 1 month, it's about teaching you how to write answers. Like see, you will read about Plato. When you see a question like they will tell Plato is philosophy, philosophy is Plato. Comment. then you will think what to write and you will randomly start writing. But here we will teach what to write, okay, how your introduction should be. So you have to introduce about Plato, like Plato is the father of political philosophy. He has written important works such as Statesman's Republic, Laws. Then you have to tell about why he is called as the father of political philosophy. Why we will tell Plato is philosophy, philosophy is Plato. What is his contribution to political philosophy? Then we have to conclude an answer. So this is some of the art which you have to learn like for first few weeks. Once I feel that you have necessary skills to write the answer, then your tests will start, like 1 hour tests, 2 hour tests. Yeah. Anything else?
Online students doubts.
Online students doubt, that's what I told. I think even I am new to the online thing, because this is after the orientation class, this was the first the online class which I have done. But as I have heard, for what you have attended polity and geography classes, I think the doubts can be asked in a separate section which is there, chat section. So I will be clear.
We have a laptop here, we can randomly go to that.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They have to slide.
Okay, it's okay if you tell if you have a laptop. Okay, that can be done from the next class, because I didn't have an idea that how it is being done. So if it is possible, yeah, we can get a laptop and clear the doubts of the online class. That won't be an issue.
So they are shouting there.
There?
Online students are
Shouting.
yeah.
Where did you see?
Not here, when
Previous classes.
Previous class, geography class.
Okay, if that's the case, that's what. There's no issues. We can bring a laptop and we'll see the doubts what they've asked, and we'll try to clarify the doubts. So that's the thing. So it's very much necessary now, given what the pandemic situation is, that we have to adapt to the changing situation. Okay. Yeah, anything else? Any other doubt? Okay, then we'll wind up today's class, and from tomorrow we'll start the core preparation as part of your political science. Thank you.